Have you ever passed through a place that felt odd? Not dangerous, not threatening, just different. The sort of place where people smile politely but never make eye contact. Where the streets are impossibly clean, the flowers never seem to wilt, and every building looks as though it was painted only yesterday. Yet the people look exhausted. Not simply tired, but worn down by something unspoken. Lake Whisper is one of those places. Most people only ever pass through. Few ever truly leave. If you spend long enough in Lake Whisper, you'll eventually hear people mention the station bell. Not the one that populates tourist photographs, not the actual restored Victorian bell hanging beneath the dark canopy at Lakeside Station, the other bell. The bell nobody ever sees. The bell with no rope, no mechanism, no explanation. The bell that only rings when someone in Lake Whisper is about to die. No one remembers when it first began. Old parish records recall it. Railway journals pass it off as urban legend. Even the oldest families can trace stories of the bell back through generations. What nobody has ever managed to explain is why the bell chooses who it chooses. It doesn't care whether you're young or old, kind or cruel, rich or poor, a doctor, a criminal, a child, a grandmother. The bell has no favourites, no prejudice, no mercy, and no timeline. It simply chooses. And when it does, everybody listens, because you might be next. One toll means Hudson Heights, the northern region of town. 2 tolls represents the Barkham Mews, the western suburbs. 3 tolls refers to the winding Lehman Lane around Lakeside Station. 4 tolls have always belonged to the lake itself, situated to the south. No one lives there, only the wildlife. Some like to believe that's proof that the bell still has a conscience. Others point out there have been mornings when the shoreline has been strangely quiet, and no one dares buy a houseboat. A 1 in 4 chance of survival for everyone. Terrible odds, but for some, they're the best they'll ever get. But when the bell tolls, for those outside the chosen district, there is relief. Temporary relief, because next time, whenever that is, it could be their time. The number of tolls also has a second added weight: time. 1 bell equals 1 hour. 2 bells, 2 hours. 3 bells, 3 hours. And that's all the warning you'll ever receive. Just enough time to put your affairs in order, to tell someone you love them, to write a letter, to forgive, or to panic. Most people choose acceptance. Some continue cooking their dinner. Some finish reading their book. Some quietly sit in their garden until the time comes. Others never truly learn to live with it. Over the years, there have been those who couldn't bear the waiting, those who ended their own lives believing they had escaped the bell. The people of Lake Whisper no longer speak their names, not because they are forgotten, but because everyone knows what happened next. The bell still rang. Their district was still chosen, someone else died in their place. Cheating the system, if you can call it that. The bell is never denied. It simply waits. Nobody understood that better than Heather Collins. At least, she believed she did. For nearly 4 years, she had dedicated every waking moment to one impossible task: finding the pattern. She filled ragged notebooks until there was no space left, mapped every toll, every victim, every date, every season, every weather report. She pinned photographs to walls, covered maps in coloured thread, tracked birthdays, moon phases, rail timetables, electrical storms, even local football fixtures. She convinced herself the answers were there, hidden beneath the chaos. She just had to look hard enough. Heather left her job 18 months earlier. She promised James, her husband, it would only be temporary, a month, 2 tops, just until she'd cracked it. He believed her, at first. Then the savings began to disappear, bills arrived unpaid, meals grew colder, conversations shorter. Their modest home slowly transformed into something resembling an investigation room. The dining table disappeared beneath stacks of files. Entire walls vanished behind maps covered in handwritten calculations. Heather barely noticed. Every time the bell rang, she added another line, another theory, another impossible equation. James stopped arguing months ago. He loved her too much to leave, but not enough to believe she'd ever find what she was looking for. Only Molly still tried. 16 years old, she had grown up beneath the shadow of the bell. She was the very image of her mother, the same cascade of golden curls, the same crystal blue eyes, the same freckles scattered across her cheeks as though placed there with intricate care. She had inherited Heather's inquisitive mind, her quiet determination, and her stubborn streak. But where Heather searched endlessly for answers, Molly had learned to live without them. She was mature beyond her years. Unlike her mother, she had never tried to understand a bell. She had simply accepted that some things a late whisper were never meant to be understood. She accepted it the way people elsewhere accepted storms or earthquakes. Terrible, unpredictable, deadly, but unavoidable. Sometimes she'd sit beside Heather, gently placing a mug of tea among the mountains of paperwork. "You should sleep." "I can't. It'll still be there tomorrow." "What if tomorrow is too late?" Molly would smile sadly. "Mum, it's never been late. It's always exactly when it's meant to happen." Heather hated hearing those words, not because they frightened her, because a part of her feared they were true. Late one evening, standing alone before another wall of calculations, Heather closed her eyes and whispered something she had repeated hundreds of times before. "If you're coming for someone, take me. Leave James, leave Molly. Leave my family out of this. Take me, please." Then, the bell rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. The sound rolled across the rooftops before disappearing into the stillness. Heather didn't move. The colour drained from her face. 3 bells, their district, 3 hours. She looked at her calculations, and for the first time in years, everything aligned. Dates, intervals, locations. But she still hadn't solved it. She thought she had. "I knew it," she whispered. "I fucking knew it." What followed wasn't panic, it was preparation. Heather opened her safe, took out her final will and testament and handwritten letters for Molly, prepared months ago, just in case. She downed a glass of the whiskey she saved just for this occasion. She cooked James's favourite meal. Shortly after, once Molly had gone upstairs, Heather took James by the hand. No words, no explanations, one final time together, the closest they'd felt in years. Passionate, intimate, somewhat final. When it was over, she placed an envelope into his hand. "If I don't see sunrise, promise me you'll look after her." James tried to laugh. "You'll tell me tomorrow that this was all another theory." Heather smiled. The tears had already begun to roll. She kissed him, longer than she ever had before. Then she crossed the hall. Molly was already asleep. Heather brushed a loose strand of hair from her daughter's face. "I love you," she whispered. She waited for a reply. Sleep denied her. Heather stood up hesitantly, then quietly closed the bedroom door. Outside, the residents of Lehman Lane were silent. Neighbours embraced on their doorsteps. Couples, children, families, singletons, a couple of dogs. Curtains remained open. Lights burned in almost every house. No one hid from the bell, no one spoke, they simply waited. A shared curiosity, and a very real fear. The second hour ticked by. Nothing. No chaos, no uproar, muted acceptance. Then the third. Heather looked at the clock. The allotted time had passed. She was still breathing. James was beside her. Across the street, lights flicked on. A neighbour stepped outside, confused. Another laughed with nervous relief. Someone began to clap. Another joined in. A woman patted her hands against her chest, checking her very existence, not believing her eyes. Heather stared through the window. Had she been wrong? Had everyone been wrong? Had the bell spared them? For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe the nightmare might finally be over. Then James frowned. "Where's Molly?" The smile vanished from Heather's face. They ran upstairs. James reached the bedroom first. He stopped in the hallway, staggered sideways. Heather pushed past him. Molly lay exactly as she'd left her, hands folded peacefully beneath the blanket. Eyes closed, she looked as though she was sleeping. Except, she wasn't breathing. Golden blonde curls dangled over decaying flesh. A gooey brown liquid seeped into her sheets. A pungent smell filled the tiny room. Heather collapsed beside the bed, taking Molly's hand into hers. It was already cold. Heather had read the stories, knew the details of death by the bell, never believed them. She whimpered, the beginnings of a guttural howl. Molly's face stared back at them. No struggle, no sign of pain, only eternal stillness. James fell to his knees beside them. Neither spoke. There was nothing left to say. Some believe Heather Collins came closer than anyone else to understanding the bell. Others believe that was precisely why she failed. Her notebooks were never completed, her calculations never solved. They remain locked away somewhere in Lake Whisper, gathering dust alongside hundreds of unanswered questions. The bell still rings, it always will, and if you ever hear it, don't waste your time searching for a pattern. Everyone who has ever tried only discovered the same terrible truth. The bell was never asking to be understood, only obeyed.